No punt intended fantasy football highlights brought to you by NyQuil. Slip into a nice coma for a few hours. And with Week 5 underway, we'll take a look at a team who was able to sleep very peacefully after Week 4, the St. Louis Lot Lizards. The defending league champs slithered their way into a highly contested rivalry matchup against the previously number 1 ranked Bama Boat Snacks, and were able to smother the Demon Barber of Fifth Fleet with some of that extra caked on Walgreens makeup, handing the Bama Boat Snacks their first loss of the season on the heels of a monstrous 517-yard, 2-touchdown performance by quarterback Jared Goff. And how did team owner Rick Horn reward Jared Goff, you might ask? How about by shipping his ass straight to Oklahoma City to play second fiddle for Lamar Jackson and the IT crew? It was a blockbuster trade that sent Tom Brady to replace Jared Goff, where Brady will have the chance to lead the city of St. Louis to championship glory in hopes to become the first quarterback to become a Super Bowl and, no pun intended, fantasy football champion. It's a dream come true for Tom Brady, who has been absolutely bursting at the seam to play professionally for the city of St. Louis, and he is already making an impact on the local sports community. In an interview with the legendary quarterback, Brady enthusiastically exclaimed, "It only made sense for me to join this team. Lot Lizards are very familiar with deflating balls in their own way, and so am I." Tom Brady will get his shot to lead the St. Louis Lot Lizards in yet another successful effort as they slum their way back to St. Louis to take on the constipated Leather Daddies. The Leather Daddies enter Week 5 after yet another dominating performance in Week 4 in a battle dubbed Kinky Things versus Pinky Rings against TBOs before Hoes that saw the Leather Daddies using their patented sandpaper-covered strap-ons against their opponents. And what was once perceived by many in the league to be an absolute showcase by team owner Kyle Curry now has lost almost all of its luster, damning Curry to the official label as a pimp in distress. And after significant interest expressed by the Leather Daddies to pursue the Bellingham Bimbos in courtship, we'll see if they can stay faithful to the cause long enough to avoid the Lot Lizards' promiscuous ways. Up next, it's our official game of the week as Money Team travels to take on the Bama Boat Snacks. Money Team rolls into Week 5 as the league's highest overall scoring squad after yet another dominating performance, successfully defeating both of last year's championship competitors in back-to-back weeks, the latter coming against the league's 2018 highest scoring squad, Sacks in the City. Team owner Lamar Peoples had this to say about his upcoming matchup. In the day prior to our main matchup with the Bama Boat Snacks, we, Money Team, admit we are nervous. We respect our opponent, therefore, we put a hex of Creed music of suckage onto the Bama Boat Snacks. We didn't want to creep into our bag of tricks just yet, but it's necessary for a win. Creed frontman Scott Stapp was unavailable for comment, but many were asking how he was able to acquire the longtime lead singer's services after Money Team team owner Lamar Peoples promised a craft victory beer after every game his team won, the likes of which has yet to be shown. Nevertheless, we'll see if the current number 1 overall ranked team can stay sober long enough not to allow their opponents to steal their seat at the throne once more. Meanwhile, the Bama Boat Snacks are looking to reset and refocus quickly after a tough loss to the St. Louis Lot Lizards, losing their spots as the number 1 overall ranked squad after their only loss of the season thus far. Team owner John Hawkins had this to say, "Well, big ups to my opponents, the Lot Lizards, for knocking the king off the Iron Throne, but next week, my dragons will be back in force. The army that is the Bama Boat Snacks will have the Money Team bending at the knee and paying my rent." Now, these are strong words from a man who just lost to a bunch of truck stop whores. In any case, we'll see if the Bama Boat Snacks can stay true to their word and reclaim his seat atop the league once again. Up next, it's another Eastern Division battle as Saxon City gets set to host TBOs before Hoes. It's been an uphill battle for TBOs before Hoes, dropping their 4th consecutive game to open their debut campaign in the No Punt Intended Fantasy Football League, revealing that the Florida-born pimp is actually no more than a toothless hoe. Although team owner Kyle Curry was able to put on some finesse this week in a seemingly highway robbery of a trade for quarterback Carson Wentz, reports from the league's tabloid suspect that team players weren't the only ones being sent to Davincis earbiters Tom Schroeder in exchange for Carson Wentz. We'll see if TBOs before Hoes can finally start establishing himself as a true Southern pimp. Saxon City are off to a rough start of their own, albeit with a small sprinkle of hope after defeating the defending league champs in Week 1. But things have been all downhill from there, with an absolute merciless pounding by #MoneyTeam glaring into recent memory. But many fans still remember the ear-blistering cheers that nearly saw the former queen of the scoreboard with her hand raised as the inaugural season league champion. We'll see if team owner Bethany Horn can work some of that magic that earned her so much buzz last season in order to avoid handing her opponent their first victory. Up next is a Western Division battle as the Chocolate Herd travel to take on the IT Crew. And so the rookies' luck has finally run out. It took 4 long weeks until one of the fantasy football seniors took notice on the fantasy football freshman and finally showed him what bitter defeat tastes like, knocking the black male strippers down 4 spots in the league's power rankings. But rookie sensation Josh Brown still has some tenacity with some of the league's most lethal wide receivers. So we'll see if the black male strippers can get back on that pole and grind their way back into the win column in Week 5. The IT Crew, on the other hand, continues to impress after successfully installing a virus protection package that shut down the Bellingham Bimbos' vaginal malware. It only took 1 week for the IT Crew to work out the kinks in their database, and after reviewing their opponent's portfolio ahead of their matchup, the self-proclaimed half-smart bank breaker will look to show that the fantasy football rookies are nothing more than chump change. Up next in our Week 5 matchups, it's yet another Western Division battle as the ATLiens travel to take on Davincis earbiters. It was a tough pill for the ATLiens to swallow, who fell just narrowly short of defeating their longtime division rivals, Y in a heated rivalry that has seen the ATLiens go completely winless to Y since the inaugural No Punt Intended fantasy football season. Team owner Adam Siflinger had this to say about his team's season thus far. So far, it's been a terrible season for the abductors. Freeman cannot run the ball, amongst other things, and nothing is going our way. The task ahead of them may not be as daunting as many would have thought, as the earbiters have only scored 21 more points over the course of the entire season thus far than the ATLiens. So the ATLiens will look to cast their probe deep into their opponents' throats in order to avoid team owner Tom Schroeder's ferocious bites. The earbiters, meanwhile, are riding high this week after being the first ever team to hold a victory over rookie sensation Josh Brown in his entire fantasy football career. It was a low-scoring affair, but in the end, the earbiters proved to be just too much for the rookie to handle, and now they'll look to upgrade to their victory package with a victory over the league's fantasy football sophomore. So we'll see if Davincis earbiters can continue to prey on lesser-seasoned opponents with absolutely no shame. Last but certainly not least in our Week 5 matchups is yet another heated historic Western Division rivalry, as Wide as Y takes a trip to the Pacific Northwest to take on the Bellingham Bimbos. It's been an up and down first quarter of the season for Coach Clapp this year, checking into Week 5 with an even 2-2 record. And many are questioning if rookie wide receiver DJ Chark packs as much of a bite as his early hype suggested, having posted a mere 8.4 fantasy points in Week 4. Nevertheless, we'll see if Wide as Y can take advantage of a juicy matchup against the Bimbos' likewise juicy thighs, en route to get himself back into the winning record column. The Bimbos, meanwhile, are continuing to bring shame to the street corner they crawled from in Bellingham, Washington, completely going winless throughout the first 4 weeks of the season. It's been a walk of shame for the once classiest hoes in all of fantasy football. But there is hope, at least for this week, as the Bellingham Bimbos have went 2-1 against Wide as Y since last season. So we'll see if the Bimbos can get back on their knees and suck off at least one victory this season. That's it for your highlights from the No Punt Intended Fantasy Football League News Hub. Be sure to check your lineups ahead of Sunday's games, and we will see you on the virtual gridiron.